What's going on, everybody? It's David Palmer, Leo King, and this is my show, Uncut Astrology, where I take off the mask and go behind the veil and look at this week's astrological forecast for the week of March 2nd through the 8th of 2016. And I gotta say, before we go into anything, this is Fate Train time. Whoop, whoop. If you have never watched me before, or you've never watched any of my horoscopes, whenever I call Fate Train time, it is extreme fate, destiny, big, powerful storybook moments in your life that are going to happen. And I guarantee you, starting this week, things develop in a storybook manner, especially because we are in the sign of Pisces. You know, Pisces is all about the storybook. It is all about the fantasy. It is all about sometimes imagination in the most purest sense. But whenever you come into the sun, and especially the moon, where we're going to have a solar eclipse, where the nodal axis is, where this sensitive position is, where every time where the sun and the moon meet at this position, we get this rare moment where we can actually physically see God talk. That's what I believe eclipses are, is you can actually physically see God talk, and to pay attention to this time in your life. Now, there's a lot happening in this week, so I'm going to be honest, but before I get into the astrology, I just want to say the March 2016 horoscope is now available, so you can get that at my iPhone app in the store, or you can get it at inclusiveastrology.com. Now, I got all of the advertising away. Oh, I did forget to mention, you know, I do a daily horoscope on an app, which is one of the top astrology apps in the world. Make sure that you get it. It's only $5.99 a month. And you get daily horoscopes, and I do daily sun sign text horoscopes on top of video horoscopes every day, on top of weekly just go check out the website, theleokingapp.com. Here we are, the week of the solar eclipse. How ironic, though, that this is the week of March 2nd to March 8th, and the solar eclipse happens on the 8th. So it's the last thing I'm going to talk about. Let's talk about the buildup to the solar eclipse. Number one, this is a very powerful week because we're going to have a yod to start it off with. A yod is when you get two planets in a nice sextile. We got Venus and Uranus going to make a nice, really 60-degree angle and making a 135 down to Jupiter in Virgo. And what this means is we are really going to look at our relationships, our self-worth, our projects, even how we handle money in our life in a whole new way. And I think that this is a time for us to expand in a really positive light. I think when we look at our relationships and when we look at, our value systems in ourselves, I think that we're really ready to realize the power of ourselves, the power of who we are, the power of how we're going to make connection. That's because Venus is in Aquarius, where we make crazy experiments and we start to figure things out in our life, and we find out what connects to us and what doesn't. We find out the people we want to connect with. We start to realize that we have a network of people that surround us that are right in front of us. And I think that this is an excellent time when Venus sextiles Uranus to really connect with people, to really find out who's on your team, to really get relationships in an exciting way and really start to see the future. Also, this is about ascending. So this is where you're going to ascend in how you relate to people. This is where you're going to ascend on how you handle your money. This is going to ascend on how you use your skill sets to make more money in your life. And it's all making this weird angle to Jupiter and Virgo, which is saying, be very specific on where you want to expand on, and you will thrive. But if you're, I think, a little bit too all over the place and trying to do 50,000 things, it's not a good time for that. With Jupiter and Virgo and Saturn and Sagittarius, this is an excellent time in your life to really focus on a specific place in your life. If you get too caught up in trying to make a million things happen, you get scattered out right now and it doesn't work. This week, realize that all the connections are there and all the doors are opening there, but unfortunately, you kind of do have to pick a certain road. Mars is entering Sagittarius. And when Mars enters Sagittarius, it wants to explode, it wants to search the world, it wants to expand, it wants to go into a million directions. But Saturn is in Sagittarius. So now we're going to have Mars and Saturn coming into a conjunction for the next, this is going to last for a while, for at least the next 2.5 months, because Mars is going to be here for all of March, all of April, and into May. So 2.5 months here of Mars and Sagittarius. And guess what? Mars is going to come back into Sagittarius in the summer, winter if you're in Australia. So we are going to have Mars in Sagittarius for a while now. This is also where Mars is going to retrograde. So this is a big deal. Mars in a fire sign, really good amped position. But when Saturn and Mars start to come close, this is about ultra laser beam focus in our life. And I think that it's so important to focus on a certain place. Now, it might not be very simple. The reason why we're in Pisces, where we could be a little bit confused, we could be a little bit all over the place. This is a really extreme week because Mercury enters Pisces, which adds to the kind of confusion of things, where things become an ultra storybook, an ultra fantasy, or at some points it really starts to be, I'll be honest, this is such a weird time. Because when Mercury comes into Pisces, it's at its detriment. It's at its worst. It's at its fall. Sorry, it's at its worst position it could ever be, pretty much. The reason why is because it gets confused. It doesn't know what to do. There's too much space for it to figure out. And so I think that this is a hard time in our life, because here we are trying to figure out these roads, these deterministic places in our life, and we're trying to be excited and have our teammates and go on this great adventure, but we are in a place where we're having to reveal our most unconscious pulls, our unconscious states. And I think that with the Sun squaring Saturn this week, taking your time is so important. With Saturn in Sagittarius and the Sun in Pisces, before you just go run off into a delusional sunset, because that's what Pisces is to me, you got to be real. And the reason why I'm bringing this as the main message is Saturn in Sagittarius is wanting to make sure that the door you're opening right now is one that's truly going to take you to a place that's going to teach you the right lessons, that's going to expand you in the right place and teach you a great positive aspect of your life? Or are you running into delusional situations, relationships, energies that really are, hard to do? I look at this as kind of like Jekyll and Hyde, or I use the example of the nutty professor, the scientist who wants to become cool and suave. Like, are you really cool and suave, or are you a nutty professor? Like, there's a part of our lives right now where we're dealing with two sides of ourselves. And what side is the right side to pick? And is this the right door to open? Because when the Sun squares Saturn, trust me, it really wants to look and make sure that you're making the right decision, and it wants you to take your time. And even though we don't want to, especially, it's like we want to just lose ourselves. We want to get out of reality. There's this aspect when there's too much Pisces, like I don't even want to deal with life. I don't want to deal with the mundaneness of life. I just want to go run away into the sunset, go take a long trip, go take a vacation, go over here, especially with Saturn in Sagittarius, Mars in Sagittarius. There's this like, F this, I'm out of here, or F this, I'm going on this quest. And there's got to be a thought process and a processing that comes first before you get lost in this place. I said on my Facebook earlier, on a live, I do a live show on my Facebook where I'll just put it live, and we do it all the time. And I said it's the same thing in politics. Your ideology, your beliefs right now, it's like a hot air balloon. It could just take you off, and the next thing you know, you're in another universe, and you're like, where in the hell am I at? It's like, you could just fly away so fast right now. And this week is about making sure that you have some sort of anchor system in your life to make sure that you're not flying away and going into places that take you too far away. Interesting enough as well, I think that this Mercury square Mars energy that's part of this week, as Mercury leaves Aquarius and it squares Mars as it comes into Sag, you really need to think about what actions you're taking in your life, especially with the Sun square Saturn, because whatever you're running into, the solar eclipse, I can throw this thing away now. The solar eclipse is going to happen and stamp the next 6 months of your life. So this week, it's like, before you stamp all this energy coming into your life, are you sure this is who you want, what you want, all these things? Because here's the moon coming out of its quarter square of Sag, and then about to come into Pisces on March 8th and oppose Jupiter. What does this mean? A solar eclipse in Pisces, number one, is going to highlight if this is the most highest vibrational road or the lowest vibrational road. There is no in between with Pisces. You are either drunk and high and stoned or completely sober. There's no such thing as being like, I'm buzzed a little. No, there's no such thing. You're either effed up or not. You're either unconscious or conscious. You're either praying or and believe in God or you don't. There's no like kinda. That's Pisces. This is the major deal. A solar eclipse with a Sun square Saturn right before, a Mercury square Mars, a yod to Jupiter. Is this the right doorway? And who are you going to choose to be? before it all stamps on March 8th. What's interesting to me about this opposition to Jupiter is, are you opening the door to the reality of where you really want to go in your life? You have to make sure that you're in the most highest vibrational place and that you're not unrealistic and that you're actually going towards a road of and a quest of positivity, and that you're remaining in a position that will allow yourself to be open instead of closed or stuck. Because one thing about Pisces, it rules the 12th house, it rules hospitals, it rules psychiatric hospitals, it rules where you get stuck, it rules where you get stuck, it rules where the boat sinks. And before you shove off, is this really the journey you want to shove off on? Is it a really conscious one, or is it a very unconscious one? And this week you have to make that call, and it's going to come up like in your grill. It's going to be like up in your grill. Like, here you go. And you know, there's going to be this kind of like, holy cow, I got to do something about it, you know? I got to actually, you know, there's no more Scorpio either. Mars left Scorpio this week, and I think you're going to realize there's got to be some boundaries drawn here right before it happens. Fast. Because then once we come Mars into Sag, there is no boundaries in Sagittarius. Sagittarius try to jump over the boundaries. They jump over the fences on their horse. They're like, get me the hell out of this cage. You know? So we're coming to a place where there's not much boundaries. We're kind of coming into a boundaryless universe, play by your own rules kind of energy. Saturn is about to be squared by Jupiter this month. It's going to start its square to Neptune again. We are coming into weird circus rounds and weird stories and fated moments that are going to teach us our most grandest lessons. And it's interesting that it starts with relationships, but more importantly, it starts with who or what side are you going to be? And the relationships that you're going to involve yourself with in your life are based off the side that you're choosing in yourself, of who you really are. Because the next eclipse, 2 weeks from the 8th, on March 23rd, is going to be in Aries and Libra. The true identity and the true releasing of mere reflections of ourselves that do not work, and the true releasing of relationships that don't identify with who we are. How can you maybe even pull out a part of yourself that has been stuck for a long time and bring out? And is it right to bring that person out? That's another thing to kind of think about during this transit. And the last thing that I want to note on this Uncut is this solar eclipse in Pisces is about the conjunction to Chiron. Are you jumping into situations that are here to just do whatever you can to heal all the past shit you've gone through for the last 3 to 4 years? And could this finally be a moment where you feel like this is going to fix it all? Or really, is this all just going to make it worse? Pause on that one real quick. Ask yourself that question before you jump on this journey. Because when I yell fate train, whoop, whoop, and it shows up at the station, that's the solar eclipse on March 8th. And the buildup is you can hear the train. March 8th is where it's like, all aboard! And you're already in your seat and it's going. So from the 2nd to the 8th, we are literally the train approaching, midweek when the sun squares Saturn. Okay, I'm getting in my seat now. Who am I sitting next to? What am I sitting next to? And where? Is this the right destination, or should I get on that train? Which train am I getting on? I got to make a heavy, hard decision. And is this really where I want to go in my life? And is this really going to be who I want to be? And I have 2 sides of myself, and which side am I going to pick? All comes down to this week. And is this really going to open the door? And am I going to be in reality, or am I just losing myself in a delusional belief system and ideology that has pulled me away like a hot air balloon and taken me away and felt like I am lost in it now? A lot to think about on this week's Uncut and this solar eclipse. conjunct Chiron, opposed Jupiter. At the end of the day, the positive in all this is whatever you choose or wherever the universe chooses, what I believe. Remember, I'm a big fate, destiny person. Is actually really going to heal you in the biggest way possible that you didn't even know. It just might not show up in the way that you thought it would. Because when Mercury comes into Pisces, it's going to blow your mind away because God does things that we truly, as individuals in our mind, cannot fully understand. Thank you so much for all the support. I truly appreciate it. Make sure you get me on my app, theleokingapp.com, or you can get it at the Apple or Android stores. I appreciate the support so much. Thank you. If you want to get a reading with me, I opened up a couple weeks for readings. Get a one-on-one reading with me on Skype, on the phone. I send it to you in a video format. I guarantee it'll be the best reading you ever got in your life. I appreciate it so much, and I will see you next week.